Good morning, Year 2. So our spelling practice this morning is going to be the words could, would and should, which are actually a type of verb, those words, and you actually use them in persuasive writing a lot, could, would and should. Now the tricky bit is the ud, and so how we remember the tricky bit is by the mnemonic, and that's O, U, lucky, duck. And as you know, in school, we watched that very funny video with the ducks flying through the air. So I'll put a link on the YouTube description for you to click on so you can watch the video. And what I want you to do is to write 3 sentences using those words. So one for each word. So one sentence using the word could, one sentence using the word would, and one sentence using the word should. And it is actually quite hard to think of sentences to put those words in. Sometimes the questions work. So, would you like to come to my house? Should I finish my work now? Could you help me with this? So sometimes they work at the start of a sentence, but it doesn't matter where you put them in the sentence. But remember, if it's a sentence, it's got to make sense. It's got to have a capital letter. It's got to have a full stop. And it's got to have a verb, something's got to happen. So I want you to pause the video now. You can watch the little funny cartoon a bit, and then I want 3 sentences using one with could, one with would, and one with should. The TLP for today's English lesson is can I write a poem about an African animal using adjectives to describe? So remember at the start of the week you did a poem about your own pet or an animal that was familiar to you. Now we're going to do the same thing but for an African animal. Now remember, we've already found out lots of different ways to describe. You can use adjectives, which is what's in the TLP, but you can also use powerful verbs to describe, and you could use a simile, saying something similar to something else. So here's an example I'm going to read to you. The elephant. 1 long trunk, 4 thick legs, 2 sharp tusks, thumping, plodding, crashing, wrinkled and noble, like a great bulldozer, old man of Africa. So if we look at this poem, we can see that all the things we're learning about are in the poem. So the adjectives, we've got a long trunk, we've got thick legs, sharp tusks, he's wrinkled and he's noble, and we've got a giant bulldozer, and an old man. So there's lots of adjectives in there, but there are also some really good verbs. So we've got thumping, plodding, and crashing. So that describes his movement. And remember, because it's a poem, it can break the rules. So although it's got commas in between the verbs, there aren't any full stops in there, and every single line starts with a capital letter. Because it's a poem, it's allowed to break the normal rules of writing. Now maybe if you're really clever you might be able to spot the simile in there, like a giant bulldozer. So it's describing, it's likening him to something else. Now that poem is actually following a very simple structure which you can copy to make a new poem. So it's like a recipe for a poem. So it goes number, adjective, body part. So we've got 1 long trunk. Number, adjective, body part. 4 thick legs. Then it does the same thing, it repeats. 2 sharp tusks. And then it's got 3 verbs. Thumping, plodding, crashing. Then 2 adjectives, wrinkled, noble. Then the simile, like a giant bulldozer. And it ends with a statement, old man of Africa. So you can use that recipe to write your own poem. So here's an alternative version using the recipe. 2 wrinkled eyes, 1 tiny tail, 2 flapping ears, marching, stamping, thrashing, grey and wise, like an enormous brick wall, wisest of them all. So this recipe here can be used not just for an elephant, it could be used for any African animal. So you could use it for a lion, for a cheetah, for a giraffe. Now here's the structure of the poem with a picture of a lion. So you could think about some ideas and have a go at writing your own. So you could use the elephant one because we've had lots of ideas about elephants, or you could have a go at a lion one. So we need a number, an adjective and a body part. So I'm going to do one, I'm going to write the word wrong, one shiny black nose. I'm going to put a little comma in there. So one shiny black nose. Then there's another number, adjective, body part. So I'm going to do two furry ears. And there's another number, adjective, body part. Let's go back to one. One, let's do a really good adjective, magnificent. I wonder if you can guess what I'm going to do. One magnificent mane, which is the hair all around his face. Then we need three verbs in a row. So we have to think about what a lion might do. Roaring, pouncing, and that word that means sort of creeping up on your prey, stalking. I don't think we'll be able to fit it in there. Two adjectives left. Oh, another lion adjective. Proud. Proud and fierce. Let's have proud and fierce. And then a simile. Oh, what could we say that a lion is as brave as? Let's have as brave as a soldier. As brave as a soldier, and then a statement. So my statement's going to be the King of Africa. So let's see if that works as a poem. One shiny black nose, two furry ears, one magnificent mane, roaring, pouncing, stalking, proud and fierce, as brave as a soldier, the King of Africa. So your task today is to have a go at using that recipe to write your own poem. So you can freeze the video before I started writing, or you could freeze this page and you could write one about a zebra, 4 stripy legs. That would be a good way to start that one. And I look forward to hearing some of your poems later on Zoom. So practice reading it to yourself, and then I look forward to hearing some of them later. If you want a challenge, here is another poem recipe. So you could have a go using this recipe instead. And this one goes adjective, 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 adverb, verb, adjective, adjective, noun, adjective, adjective, noun, simile, noun, rhyming sentence. So if you want a challenge, that is a real challenge. I've had a go at doing that for a giraffe. And actually, if you look at the colours there, the words are written in, that is the colour code that we use. So light blue for the adjectives, dark blue for the nouns, red for verbs, and then adverbs are green. And I sort of just made up my own colour for simile and for a rhyming sentence. So this is my attempt at that one using that poem recipe. So we've got towering, tall, elegant, gracefully reaching for leaves, lovely, long legs, patterned brown coat, lovely, long lashes, as tall as the trees, swaying in the breeze. So you might have noticed that I managed to get a rhyme in there with trees and breeze, and my simile was as tall as the trees. So you can have a go as a challenge to try and use that recipe to have another poem. And the good thing about these poems is they're actually a bit like a riddle, because you don't have to include the name of the animal. So maybe when you're reading them later, I can guess which African animal you're writing about, because you don't actually need to put the name in. You could draw a nice picture to illustrate it, but you could read it to someone else and then see if they can guess which is the animal that you're describing.